that finishes up my data section. I'm going to put in some space here for the summary answer section, but we won't use it right now because I want to do the detailed answer section next. Detailed answer section. And in the detailed answer section, I'm going to have some key column headers. We have the year, and this will be like years 0 through however many years we might want to run it. Age would be the beginning age that this person is at the start of their investment period and go until they retire, or even longer if they choose to keep the money in there. Salary, beginning balance, the year-to-date, YTD stands for year-to-date earnings, the year-to-date contributions, the ending balance, cumulative earnings, cumulative contributions, the ending in balance. You can see I have ending balance twice. One will be the ending balance using this math here, and the other will be the ending balance using this math here. And then we'll have a check figure in the far side. We'll start with computing the year. With the year, you'll notice that all these formulas that I'm going to do next, I'm always going to go back and see, do we actually have complete data? Because if we don't have complete data, then I'd get an error message down here because it's trying to find data to be used in the formulas that doesn't exist. So I'm always going to start off these formulas with an if statement, testing to see whether the data is complete. If it is complete, then it will do the formula. If not, then it'll put in a blank. So, for example, here for the year, I can say if data is complete, then put in a 0, because that'll be year 0. Otherwise, put in a blank. So in this case, since the data is complete, it'll put in 0. Now, if I were to delete age, for example, you can see that the year disappears. In other words, the double quote blank is now entered into that cell. So if I put back 25 under current age, then it comes back. Now the next year, I don't want the same formula. The next year, I'm going to test that again. I'm going to say if data is complete, then take the number of the last year plus 1. And so that will help me to increment my years. I didn't want to just do a sequence 0, 1, 2, 3 and then use the cell fill handle and drag it down. I want to use a formula that's going to make sure that I do have valid data. And so now that I've put those two in there, I actually only want to copy this one. I don't want to copy this formula above because that will always put in 0 if the data is complete. I actually want to put in the next year. And so I've got a good formula there. I'm going to drag it. I think it goes down to about, I think it's around 88 or so. Let's just see what number I get. Yeah. So if I drag that down to row 88, I get 60 years. So if I started at 25 and added 60 years, you know, you'd be up into your 80s. So I'm going to go end up. And so I've got all my dates there. This row 0, I don't need really any of these other values here in row 0. Maybe just the ending balance. So my ending balance would be, I'm going to test first, if data is complete. And if it is complete, then I want the ending balance for year 0 to be the original investment. Otherwise, put in a blank. And that same formula, what I can do to copy that same formula, I can go up here into Edit and copy and paste it. Or I can just, since these are absolute references, these are absolute references up here, I can go like this and copy and then move over to ending balance and hit enter and paste, and as you can see, hitting the F2 button, it's the same ending balance. Okay. Now my check figure, I'll do a test if completeness test, then take the ending balance computed using this information minus the ending balance computed using this information. Right now, obviously it's going to be the same number because the formula is the same, but you'll see that I change it on the next row. And then I have to do a double quote if it's not complete data. Okay. Now we're under row 1, year 1. We've got to put in the individual's. Now to put in the individual's age, rather than going back each time and just testing whether data is complete, I can simply test to see whether there is a value in year, because back here in year I already tested if data is complete. If it's not, then it puts in a blank, and so I can actually just test this column. I can just test if B29 is blank, then blank. Otherwise, then I can do the calculation for age, which would be the current age plus the number of years it's been since we started this investment. Okay, so that would give me 25, because current age is 25 plus the number of years that have passed, 0. Now if I copy that down one, you can see it works, because now it's taking the current age, which is 25 again, plus the number of years it's been since the beginning, which is 1, and we get 26. And if I copy that all the way down, it works all the way down. So I go end down, and you can see it goes up to 84 years. We could extend that if we wanted to, but we'll just leave it how it is for the moment. Next one, let's go on to the salary. In year 1, the salary is going to be, let's do our test here again. Okay, so if B29 equals blank, then blank. I'm going to do that every time. I won't take time to explain that each time I do it. I'm going to use that same beginning for all these other formulas, so just kind of be ready for that. I might go quickly through that beginning portion of the if-then statement. But if it's not blank, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the salary for this individual, and I have to go up to find that. Okay, so in year 1, their salary will be whatever their beginning salary is. Now for year 2, I'll copy this down, Control C and then Enter. But as you can see, that formula is not very good because it doesn't include their annual raise. And so we're going to modify this a little bit to bring in their annual raise. The way we would modify that is we won't just take annual salary as is. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take their annual salary from the last year, and we have to multiply it by 1, which gives me the annual salary again, right? Taking prior year salary times 1 would give me the prior year salary, plus, and we're going to pick up the annual salary increase. So effectively what we're doing is we're taking last year's salary and we're multiplying by 1.03, which will give us the $50,000 plus 3%. And then I have to end it with another parentheses. And you can see when they're 26, they'll be making $51,500. So when you take your first job, you might want to be aware of what kind of salary increases you can expect. Now that's ready. And I'm doing these one by one, but you could just wait and do all these formulas at the end and then copy them all down. But I'll just do them one by one because it doesn't take much time. Let's go on to beginning balance now. The beginning balance formula is pretty straightforward in that all we're saying is the beginning balance for the current year is the ending balance for the prior year. So we'll put in our completeness test first, make sure we do have values, and if that's blank, then blank. Otherwise, just pick up last year's ending balance, and that would be your formula for beginning balance. So every year, whatever the ending balance is for one year will be the beginning balance for the next year. Just like in accounting, the ending balance sheet for one year is the beginning balance for the next year, beginning balance sheet for the next year. So I can copy that down. As you can see, there are zeros here because we haven't computed the ending balance in any of these other columns. So, but that'll take care of itself as we move along. This next column is the year-to-date earnings. Let me widen that so you can actually see the word. Year-to-date earnings, and the way you widen that, you just put your cursor in between the two columns and drag, or you can just double-click, and that will automatically auto-fit that, that column. Under year-to-date earnings, once again we will test, as you know. And now if it's not blank, we want to take year-to-date earnings would be the beginning balance times the expected return rate. Now that formula, each time, if we were to copy this down, this relative reference is perfect for E29, because when it copies down, then it would be E30, which would take the beginning balance times the expected rate for this row, and next row and next row as it copies down. So it's good to keep this E29 as a purely relative reference, so that purely relative reference will change as it gets copied down to the different rows. So I can copy that down. And once again, these will show up zeros until we actually get these ending balances to come in for the beginning balance. So we're still right on track. Now the year-to-date contributions, this is actually going to be a sum of both the employer and employee contributions. We could have added another column that had employer contributions year-to-date and employee contributions year-to-date. I'm choosing to just put both of them together. That's up to you if you want to have two columns for the contributions to show employee and employer separately. But I'm going to put them together in here. So I'm going to start off by testing our whether we have complete data or not. And now I'm going to take my D29, which is my salary, and I'm going to multiply it by the contribution percentages. So the contribution percentage for the employee plus contribution percentage for the employer. So what this does is it takes your salary and multiplies it by, in this case, 7.5%. That's how much you would have contributed that year. And by looking at this formula, I think it's good that these are fixed. I will always refer to employee percentage and employer percentage. But the D29 needs to change to be D30, D31 as I copy this down. So keeping this a purely relative is exactly how I want it, which would allow me to then copy that down. And you see that works because there is a value in the salary. Good. The next one is our ending balance. The ending balance for any subsequent years after the initial year 0 would be the beginning plus your earnings for the year plus your contributions for the year. So we'll put in that formula. Once again, we're going to test for blank and blank. But now, this is simply a sum. You just sum your beginning through your earnings and your contributions, and that would be your formula. So that would give you the cumulative ending balance as of this point in time, which is correct. We started with 1,000, then we threw in 80, we threw in 3,750. If you add that up, that's 4,830 in total. So this is current year additions were 3,830, and you add 1,000, 4,830. And I think that formula is good as is, so we can copy that down, and you can see all these other numbers now up here. Moving on to our cumulative earnings. For some of you, the word cumulative may be a new word. I'll type it all out. Cumulative. Cumulative means it's added numbers up over a period of time. It's accumulating the numbers. So these are the cumulative earnings. So the cumulative earnings would have to be, the cumulative earnings at any given year would have to be the cumulative earnings from the prior year plus any new earnings for the current year. So that's what this formula is going to be, is we're going to compute the cumulative earnings. And as soon as we get there, we will show that math. Okay, so the cumulative earnings would have to be cumulative earnings for the last year plus any year-to-date earnings for the current year. And that's your cumulative earnings. So right now, since there were no earnings last year, but we do have earnings in the current year, we have 80. But if we copy this down one, you can see we had 80 from the last year and add 386 for the current year, 466. And now that formula can be copied down. Cumulative contributions. Let's. I'm going to widen these columns so you can see these words a little more fully. Double click, and I can come back and clean that up a little bit if necessary. But cumulative contributions is pretty much the same idea. I'm going to first test the data completeness. But now my cumulative contributions would have to be my cumulative contributions from the prior year plus the contributions for the current year. And with that, I can hit enter, and I have 3,750 cumulative earnings. Why? Because I had nothing last year plus current year. And bring it down one just to test it out. I had 3,750 from the prior year plus another 3,862. That math looks like it's correct, and so I can copy it down. Once again, I could have done all these formulas at once and then highlighted the whole row and copied it, but I'm just doing it one by one just because. Moving on to our ending balance. Now the ending balance here is going to be a little trickier because these cumulative columns already pick up all earnings to date. So really all we'd have to do to get the ending balance would be take the ending balance from the prior year and then add all contributions from the beginning of time. So this math is a little different than what's going on over here, so be careful that you understand the difference. So let's do the math here. It's going to be first to test the whether it's blank or not, and then put in blank if it's data is incomplete. And I'm going to now take the beginning balance, but I want to make that an absolute reference because I always need to take this very beginning balance, no matter where it gets copied down below. I always need to start with 1,000, and then I'll just be adding the current cumulative earnings and contributions to date. So I pick up the cumulative earnings to date, cumulative contributions to date, and now I can copy that down one just so you can see it. So what I had is I had 1,000 and I added all the contributions to date, 4830. Then I had 1,000 and the cumulative contributions earnings to date are these two columns which already include these numbers in there. So hopefully you understand the math that's going on. And just to check, you can see that the ending balance as computed under this method is the same as over here, and I can double click that down. And those, now we're going to test whether they match or not. Now in the check figure over here, we're going to test if our cumulative approach to computing ending balance agrees with the current year approach to computing the ending balance. And we've already done this check figure here. We ran it off of is data complete. If we want to change that, go back and hit the edit button here. I can get rid of the is data complete, and I could just do a test off of the year 0. Either way, I'm okay either way. I think I'll leave it as is, and I'll just double click. Now if you see these, it looks like there's an error here. In other words, the check figure doesn't reconcile, but that's actually a very, very small number. If I highlight that whole column, which it already is, and go up to home and set maybe a comma style, you'll see that those are very, very minor rounding differences. While we're here, let's highlight the whole range. What I did is I just dragged and dropped. I selected and I held the shift button. In fact, I actually want to start in salary. I want to start in salary because I'm going to format all these. So I clicked in salary, hit the shift button, then clicked in L28, so it highlighted all that, and then I can go end down, do it one more time, end down, and I've selected my whole range, and I can just put maybe a comma style. And now all that's formatted for me. I might choose to highlight these two columns, end down, and maybe do a center. And it's a good idea to go all the way down to the bottom and see if you've got this type of problem with the formatting. One way we can just take care of this all at once is maybe highlight all of these columns. You know, I'm clicking at the very top on D and then holding my left mouse button down. And here I can just right click now on D and set a column width to maybe 16 and end down. It seems like that's going to be wide enough, end up, at least for what I would expect the values to be. So I think we've got our detailed answer section working. Now we can go up into our summary answer section, which effectively will pick up these key figures down below based on the year of retirement.